Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today was everyone's favorite day of the week, Tuesday, which means titled Tuesdays. And in round number 5, I was up against none other than Magnus Carlsen, which many people regard as the GOAT. I was playing with the black pieces, so let's have a look at what happened. Magnus opened the game with e4 and I responded with the Sicilian. So, sometimes I also like to play it solid with the move e5, but I figured, often in Titled Tuesdays I play the Sicilian, so let's just stick to my guns and let's see what happens. So he played knight f3, d6, d4, takes. Now we have the open Sicilian, and I go for knight f6, knight c3, and a6, the start of the knight of variation. Now here there's many things White can do. White can go, for example, for bishop to g5, bishop e2 is a move, bishop e3 as well, bishop c4, countless options, a4, a3, h3, h4, f3, g3, pretty much anything has been tried here. And also the move Magnus goes for, the move rook to g1. Now the idea behind the move rook g1 is very simple. He wants to go for a very direct g2 g4 push and grab more space on the king side. So here I play the move b5, grabbing more space on the queen side. Also an idea behind the move a6. And I clear up this square for my bishop, and also often I can go b4 to attack the knight on c3. So Magnus goes g4, I go bishop to b7, attacking the pawn, and Magnus goes for g5, a pawn sacrifice. Now all of this has still been seen. Black takes the pawn, he takes, and here I always thought the main move is queen to g4, hitting my bishop. Now note that Magnus does go for a pawn sacrifice, so he has to find a way to justify it. And in the game he goes a4, hitting my pawn. And okay, I feel like, okay, if I take, he's going to bring his rook into the game, and he might get some sort of initiative. So I just play the move b4, keeping the file for his rook closed. Magnus goes queen to g4, attacking my bishop, and I just drop it back to the b7 square. Bishop to g2, queen c7. Now I feel like I had some games here without the inclusion of a4 and b4, so I felt pretty comfortable about this position. I feel like Black's doing pretty well here generally. And but anyway, Magnus went for bishop to d2, attacking the pawn on b4. The computer on chess.com gives it a question mark, but looks quite normal to me. I go knight d7, he takes, and I play g6, aiming to fianchetto my bishop on the long diagonal. Alright, so Magnus castles, I go bishop to g7, and here he goes queen to e2, which apparently is a big mistake, but it makes some sense. He's exerting some pressure along the e-file. So here I decide to trade off the bishops, and now I castle. So I sacrifice the pawn on e7, but I don't think he's in good shape to take it, as here I was planning queen b7, hitting the rook and the bishop, and the lines work out quite well for Black. For example, in case you go, let's say f3, then I can take, and if you take the knight, I take the knight on d4, and Black's up a piece, and Black's winning. Alright, so Magnus played rook g3, activating his rook along the third rank. I played rook a b8, activating my rook as well and hitting the bishop. And I wasn't 100% sure what exactly was going on here, but I felt pretty optimistic. I mean, the material is even. I've got this half-open b file to work with, also the half-open c file. I've got a nice bishop on this long diagonal, and then I can come out here or here. So let's see what happens. He plays bishop to a3, I go knight c5, hitting the pawn on a4, and he goes rook to c3, pinning my knight. So I go queen b6, stepping out of the pin, once again attacking this pawn. He goes rook c4, and I go rook to c8. And my idea was that in case he takes on e7, I was going to go bishop takes d4. And in case he takes with this rook, I have knight b3 check. And if he takes with the pawn, I can take the rook as this rook is pinned. And Black should be doing pretty well here as I'm up the exchange. So Magnus saw that. He played queen e3, adding some support to the knight on d4. I played d5, hitting the rook. And here Magnus played rook to b4, hitting my queen. Now, here I just moved the queen back with queen to c7, but apparently a nice opportunity here would have been queen takes b4, sacrificing the queen. Because after takes, White's got a queen, but I've got a rook and a bishop, and Black's pieces here are coordinating perfectly, putting a lot of pressure on White's queen side. But hard to see that in a blitz game, where again, the time is ticking down. As you all can see, I'm down to 35 seconds here. So just played queen to c7, to keep defending this knight over here. So he took, I recaptured with the rook. And here a bit of a strange decision by Magnus. I was expecting him to go queen c3, attacking my knight. I was probably going to give a check. Now it turns out that after king b1, I take here, and Black's doing pretty well. And perhaps Magnus saw that he has to go queen e3, but he didn't want to go for a move repetition, which is quite understandable because he's the big rating favorite in this game. So Magnus took the knight on c5, I recaptured, and he goes knight to b3. So the endgame is quite okay for white, as he will have a big majority on the queen side, but I felt like I had to play for the initiative. Once again, given the fact that I've got this rook here, also the bishop looking down, and my king over here is sitting perfectly safe. So I played queen c4, hitting this pawn over here. He goes a5, I go e6, nicely solidifying my pawn structure. He went king b1, and now queen g4, hitting the rook over here. And also I'm trying to target these weaknesses on the king side. So he played queen to d3, hitting this pawn, so in case I take, he takes here, and he gets a dangerous a pawn, so I didn't quite want to go for that. Instead, I play a rook to b5 to make sure that he cannot take. Magnus goes knight to d4. I'm like, free pawn, say less. I take it. c3. Free pawn, say less. Apparently, this is a mistake. I guess because of b4 and my rook is a little bit trapped. Kind of forgot about that for a moment. But fortunately, Magnus goes queen g3, offering to trade the queens. And I was like, hey, I'm up 2 pawns, right? So I'm just going to trade. So take. I took over here. He recaptured. And I play king g7, and I thought, like, okay, well, Magnus is the GOAT in endgames, but I'm just going to create a pass pawn over here, you know, like, and we'll see what he's going to do. Play b4, I move my rook over here, king here, I go h5, once again, I want to create a passer over here, I go e5, hitting his rook, I bring my king to the middle, he goes rook here, I defend the pawn, rook b6, rook a5, hitting the pawn on d5, and so I played king e6 to defend it. He goes king c2, I go g5. Once again, I want to create that passed h-pawn. He went king d3, h4. Once again, I create the passer. So take, king e3, and now rook c6. And here he's in big trouble. The c-pawn is under attack, and there's just too many problems for white. I mean, the c-pawn is super weak, the h-pawn is running down the board. So he played king f3, I took, he went king up, I gave a check, king here, and now I go d4, setting the d-pawn in motion. So he takes the pawn, I go king d5, goes king f5, I push the pawn, rook here, so that in case I check, he's got here, and he picks up the d-pawn, but I give a check, pushing his king away, and after king g5, I played king to c4, hitting the pawn over here, and also setting up ideas to go d2, and made rook d8 with rook to d4, and in this position, Magnus Carlsen resigned. So, truly a very special game for me. I've only played Magnus twice online. One time we made a draw, and this game I won in Title Tuesday. So I actually have a plus score against him, which I'm sure I'm one of the very few people who has that. So yeah, no, truly a special game. Anyway, I hope all of you guys enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next one.